Anarkya Miller and
Sonny Puzikas here.
So it's a day after the second presidential debate, and this is our second episode of the Uncensored Musings series that we're doing. So we think the presidential debate is the perfect topic.
Entertainment was certainly worth it. I think Meghan somehow suspected that that's going to happen because about an hour before the presidential debate, I got a very, very short but very, very concise and direct honey-do list. Go to the store, get popcorn, which I did.
Just as a disclaimer, neither of us support either of the candidates. We're not planning on voting for either of them. I mean, yeah, watching it was for entertainment value, but also we're making our judgments based on our personal principles, which neither of them represent. But
if I were a voter, I would certainly not fall into and probably is gonna kind of upset some of my friends and my followers. I would not fall into the movement of voting for lesser of the two evils. I think that's a band-aid solution for a cancer that we have, and not having a principle, not standing based on that principle and trying to affect something that way, it's really, some people will say that we're trying to just prevent from the bigger evil taking over. We're not. We're conditioning ourselves, we're conditioning our children, we're conditioning the whole nation to accept shit over diarrhea. That's not good. Meghan kind of, going to go over quite a few things as far as the questions asked and how both candidates responded and what they had to say about the issues or mostly about each other.
First question, we both kind of looked at each other and didn't see why it was so important or relevant. Basically the question was, the last presidential debate could have been considered rated MA for mature audience, which, I don't know, people are easily offended these days. I thought it was pretty watered down. Anyway, so the question was asking, how does each candidate model appropriate behavior for our youth? I think what pissed me off about the question itself is it's insinuating that our politicians should be role models for our youth. So why do we want our youth to try and run other people's lives, be controlling, narcissistic, tyrannical? I just think that's a horrible question. Why should they be role models for our youth?
The whole idea of role model to begin with, I think it needs to be defined. I'm a father to two amazing children. Meghan can testify and tell you, I use inappropriate language in front of my children. Okay? Many of you would probably ask, what kind of role model are you? I tell you what kind of role model I am. I want them to grow up independent thinkers, make their own decisions, be responsible for consequences of their decisions, think for themselves, be able to separate good from bad, and not be insulated from realities of the world and life. Guess what? They're gonna hear the word fuck, dick, and pussy from their friends. They already have. Okay? Surprise, surprise, parents, I know. Because your children are angels. Their ears automatically shut close when such word comes at them, so they never heard it. So God forbid if you say that, right? You know what? Let me tell you something. If your kid is the worst thing that he does, it says the word fuck, he's a good kid. It's all right. So when we strive to say that, we're trying to be role models, and God forbid politicians as role models, no, absolute no. Okay? We parents, politicians, teachers are educators for our kids, not role models. We need to teach them to become their own little person that makes decisions, is responsible, contributes, gets back what he puts in.
In regards to what Trump, and actually the second question was directly related to what Trump said, so this can kind of carry into both questions. For the recent tape that came out about him using crude language about women and using the word pussy. As someone who has had a little bit of a background in feminism, yeah, I could see why people would be offended by it, but they also completely get rid of the context of where he's at. He's around a bunch of groupies. I mean, and for him to, what I liked was he was at least honest about it, in that he didn't say,
I meant something different.
Yeah, he didn't try and say he meant something different. The moderator tried to I guess the question was more, you understand that you're promoting sexual assault.
Boys, let me ask you all out there, how many of you sitting in the company of other boys after a couple beers have said that terrible, terrible word? Pussy. Okay? I know I have. So if I run for president after I fabricate my birth certificate, you know, I just making it clear now, I have said pussy. Ladies, let me ask you a question. Girls' night out, bachelorette parties, things like that. How many of you have actually, in your thoughts and in your language, objectified men and or private parts of men as dick? Okay? We're all humans. We do that sometimes in good humor. It's fun. It's you're in the circle of your peers or whatever. It's immature. It's stupid. It can be interpreted as disrespectful, but it's not intended to hurt anybody.
Hillary has said, I think, worse things about women. Obviously, I don't know, we can go into the rant about Bill. And the next question, which the way it's worded I think is funny, because when they nailed Trump on that tape, they blatantly call him, you know,
basically they said it's sexual assault.
They called it sexual assault, but when there's a question about the emails, it's worded very softly. Like, of all the questions about the emails they probably got, they chose the one that's least offensive to Hillary in regards to the email. The FBI said that there were 110 classified emails that were exchanged, 8 of which were top secret, and that a possible hostile actors did gain access to those emails. You don't call that careless or intentional, right? I mean, there's no like, I don't know if it was worded sarcastically, but they act like it's assumed as if it was just careless and it wasn't intentional.
So what was the next? I remember there were a couple of things that were.
Well, when was the big punchline? Wasn't that when they tried to get off the? Oh,
it was on emails. It was an exchange on emails.
Yeah, Hillary said, well, you know, hopefully this country isn't run by someone with his temperament, and then of course he fires back with, yeah, because you'd be in jail. And both of us.
We both jumped, not because we were so happy about Trump. We were so happy that somebody said that. It's awesome to hear actually sometimes uncensored words coming out of a future politician or already present politician. It's refreshing. I like that, and I liked especially because of whom it was directed at.
So the next series of questions is about the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare.
Obama don't care.
I actually liked this part of the debate because, for one, I don't think Trump is a very good public speaker. I think he repeats himself a lot, and it's not on important parts of his argument. I don't think he's a very good public speaker, but he presented some logical solutions to freeing up the market. And as someone who supports free markets and who's looking for someone that wants to encourage competition, he explained it very shortly. You know, his thing was, you know, repeal Obamacare and then allow for insurance companies to compete. Don't draw these lines of insurances can't cross, you know, state borders. You know, allow for competition so that people can actually choose for themselves what they want. There'll be competitive rates. Whenever government mandates something, it creates a monopoly, and it screws everyone over, and that's why, you know, healthcare has been going up, because
Capitalism 101, folks, and I know Capitalism 101 coming from a former, you know, from an immigrant from former commie country. Wow, it sounds probably humorous, because it is. Capitalism 101 is this: if I own an insurance company called I Hate Old Sick People, okay, and I'm trying to be rich, okay, but I see in the neighboring state, okay, that has maybe 2 million or so, whatever the number would be, of old sick people, okay, and the product is not being offered to them. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to offer a product to them. Okay? The next 6 guys that own similar companies, but probably with more respectful names, they're going to look at that, they're going to go like, holy shit, man, look at this. There's a big chunk of market that we can compete for and make millions. They're going to come in and probably offer better deals because they don't hate old, sick people. Okay? So now these old, sick people are going to have what? They're going to have choices, options. Not choices as in Hillary or Donald. I have to choose between the shit and diarrhea. No, options, many options. Some of them are going to be overpriced, some of them are going to be very cheap but very low quality, and anything in between. Capitalism 101, that's how you create competition, that's how healthy competition drops the prices down and moves the service level up.
And, you know, people can shop around for what they actually want instead of government mandating one particular type of coverage for everyone. And I think he could have explained that, gone into detail a little better about how freeing up the market could be helpful, but he at least there, I kind of...
At least he projected the free market idea.
Well, people are slowly being conditioned into, it's like adults never really grow up. They need someone else to run their life. They don't want to be accountable for their own decisions. Some people get anxiety to make their own decisions even. So it's, you know, they want an authority figure to make a decision for them, but if you want that, do you need to force that on everyone else? Another thing is that politicians are exempt from really, you know, for example, I don't think Obama is on Obamacare. Like,
actually, Senate, Congress are exempt from that. So all those people that tell us that we have to get it, they don't.
But yeah, so shouldn't that tell you something? if they're not on the plan that they're trying to push, then...
It's kind of like me trying to sell you a gun that I don't trust. Okay? Folks, buy this $99 plastic POS. I don't have one, but damn, buy it. Would you? If you asked me and you go like, hey, Mr. Puzikas, do you have that POS gun? Well, hell no, I wouldn't trust it my life to it. Okay, but I'm telling you to buy it. Well, that's pretty much our esteemed congressmen and senators, congresswomen too, because I cannot be sexist. You know, they're telling us pretty much to do that. Okay, you simple folks have that. We're going to leave ourselves some more open choices to do as we wish.
The next one is about Islamophobia and Syrian refugees.
Russia.
And of course Russia comes in because somehow Russia is...
We're guilty of everything. We started every shit in the world. Okay, every fire, okay, every mosquito bite you get is Russia's fault. Okay, Putin and his damn KGB, they orchestrated it all. True story.
There were obviously quite a few times where I laughed pretty hard throughout the debate, and one of them is just hearing Hillary go off on how all of our problems, it's Russia's fault. Like, that was, you know, that was entertaining. I did like what Trump had to say, you know, kind of in response. Would it really be a bad thing to try and get along with other countries, especially if they're another superpower? I mean, for people who think that Trump is more likely to lead the country into World War III, I don't know how they think he's more likely than Hillary, when she clearly wants a war with Russia. She doesn't monitor herself very well when she talks about Putin. They say that Trump is nasty. Like, just listen to what Hillary has to say about other countries.
How do I say it without sounding too biased? Because I might be immigrant from former Soviet Union with some Russian affiliation. Pretty much anything that happens wrong, not only in America, in the world, we are being conditioned that it's Russia's fault. But the thing about it is that it's interesting how Hillary, so-called liberal, which is actually a neocon, okay, talking liberal on certain issues to secure the voting blocks. Okay, she's straight up neocon. Her and McCain are no different. No different at all. She's uglier. That's about it. Okay. Now, in her debate, she's talking tough talk about how she's gonna use pretty much military force, no-fly zones against Russia in Syria. Folks, Russian military is in Syria by invitation of the government of a sovereign country government that's legally in power in that country. Are we there by invitation? Were we by invitation in Iraq, Libya, Kosovo? Think about it. Think about who really is perpetrator in disorder of the international relations, who's really provoking a lot of things that are going terribly wrong in the world, and who should be on the stand in the War Crimes Tribunal, Putin or some of the leaders from this country. Okay? Yeah, there's bombing going on in Aleppo, I know. Should we talk about Baghdad, things that happen in Kosovo? Okay? How about you go visit Belgrade and see what it looks like there, where we, the liberators, okay? By the way, I think Bill Clinton was president back then, if I'm not mistaken. Hey, Billy, good job when using those depleted uranium rounds in Belgrade. You know what the cancer rate is up there now? Check it out, folks. Get some information outside of CNN and Fox.
You know, and Trump did say, you know, why would it be such a bad idea to get along with Russia, and how do you
fight together?
And how do you know all this bad stuff is Russia's fault, like with hacking and stuff? It's like she has no evidence it's Russia. It's like it could be China, it could be
NSA. Hey,
we already know they're spying on everyone, right? So they're more likely.
Wow.
It's more likely NSA.
Hey, NSA. Yeah, I know you read my emails and you have my web search things. That thing that I looked up on yesterday?
Noodle salad.
Noodle salad, yeah.
Google
noodle salad. See what happens.
Somehow people always assume the left is somehow more anti-war than the right.
Funny.
I know, that's hilarious. I was kind of hoping, and I knew both candidates wouldn't support non-interventionalism. That's kind of what I was looking for, but you know, both candidates disappointed me in foreign policy. I mean, it's nice that Trump is willing to get along with Russia, but he doesn't sound like he's a non-interventionalist either.
No, I think, you know, part of American politics is that, whether we like to admit it or not, okay, most of American politics and the decisions as far as the foreign policy goes are dependent on the pocket of industrial military complex. It's as simple as that. War is hell of a business. Terrorism, okay? Islamophobia. Why is it Islamophobia? I wouldn't say that we truly have Islamophobia, although in certain circles, and certainly within the supporters of Donald Trump more so, there's a lot of people, you know, like, hey, kick all the Muzis out of the country and all this and all that. Bullshit. Just stop it. There's a lot of Muslim people, majority of them actually, that want to live normal lives just like us. Okay? They want to live, love and educate their children, and so forth and so forth. How do I know? I have quite a few friends. I travel the world as well. Right? Including in Europe and so forth and so forth. The fact is, majority of terrorism that happens around the world is done and executed by people saying that they are of the Muslim faith. Okay? It's a fact. So, you know, how to address the Islamophobia in general population in society and all that, neither one of them truly addressed it. They didn't have an answer to it, and it was kind of like deflecting into, you know, Trump said one thing right, that we have to call things what they are. This is Islamic terrorism. There is an issue with that around the world. Okay? Right. Are we dealing with it right as a country? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we probably inspiring quite a bit of that. But, you know, again, this is a very complex issue, obviously. It's a clash of two very different cultures, and it needs to be addressed. Neither one of the candidates really gave any kind of a legit explanation, answer, or solution to it.
In regards to, you know, open or closed borders, I know a lot of libertarians they differ in opinions on this. I'm not really a libertarian, but I agree with a lot of what libertarians say. I don't think open borders work when you have a welfare state. So, you know, I can agree that, you know, it's really not a smart thing to do when you have groups of people that are welfare shopping. They're trying to go to countries. I'm not being racist here, but there are people in our own country that they love the welfare state. You know, basically they want to get out of their country. They want to welfare shop. Well, I think I would love to have open borders if we didn't have a welfare state. So anyone who comes into the country, they have to be accountable for themselves. They'll contribute economically. And so really, the whole build the wall thing with Trump, I could see why it comes across as racist, and I don't think he really even follows up with the logic of, well, it's because we have a welfare state. Like, I haven't really...
No, he doesn't follow it up. It's pretty much, again, in my opinion, it's the same principle of a band-aid solution for fucking, internal bleeding. It's not going to work. Okay, wall is not going to work. Okay, what would work is destruction of a welfare state. Okay, because then there's nothing to come here for but for opportunity. To be given opportunity to work and make your own life.
WikiLeaks and taxes.
Oh.
This is a good one.
Really good one.
The moderators were asking Trump, they're trying to guilt trip him as to why, he had some legal tax cuts.
Exemptions. Deductions.
All
stuff that we all use when we do our, tax returns. Deductions for children, for business losses, for healthcare expenses, stuff like that.
And I'm sure all of you, like, if you received any type of tax cut, were like, oh, maybe I should still give it back to the government, really. Somehow they expected Trump to be like, well, why didn't you pay more in taxes, even though you legally didn't have to? And, okay, first off, taxes are illegal and immoral because taxation is theft. Second, if you do not like how government's running things, if you think that they don't handle money very well, which obviously they're not, you don't support what they're doing with the money, why would you give them more money if you don't support what they're doing with it, right? If they're not actually representing the people, if they're not doing what people want them to do with the money, then why would you pay more in taxes? If you really want to help your community, giving money to the government isn't going to do that. I mean, business owners actually create the jobs, not the government. So wouldn't you want to take that money and use it towards your businesses so that you can hire more employees, you can give your employees a pay raise? Why would you give it back to government to redistribute to people that are not helping the economy? And as Trump did point out, if Hillary thought that was such a bad thing, why didn't she do something to change the code? Or why didn't she, fight against it? And she obviously didn't, because of course she wants to help other people that are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, that would cut off her money pipeline from the people like George Soros or Warren Buffett.
Crony capitalism at its finest. That's how.
Yeah, that's certainly a
That's how
great
your government
example.
represents special interests. So.
Clinton clan is very, very good in that. Very good at that. They probably should write a book about crony capitalism.
And I did really like that Trump was unapologetic about it, and I mean, honestly, would anyone be apologetic about it unless they were being, someone was trying to guilt trip them? Would you really want to pay more in taxes? Who wants to do that? And why would you?
Come on, folks.
Let's be honest.
Let's just help our poor government to start more shit around the world and waste more money at home by giving them more of our hard-earned cash. Come on, folks. Let's be patriots.
I mean, if you really want to help other people, put it back into your business to help your employees, or donate to charity. Government is not charity. By definition, it is forced. So it is not voluntary, so it is not charity.
Even the church will do much better job in helping people than government will.
I think that was the most ridiculous question, to be honest. Because it's all legal. I could see how they would try and nail him if he did something illegally with his taxes, but what he did was totally legal.
He followed the U.S. tax code, approved, written by IRS and legislators.
I mean,
one of them, Hillary Clinton.
My personal opinion is, even if it was illegal, I would applaud him, because taxation is theft, and why would you support a corrupt government? Like, why do we keep funding it? So Trump actually mentioned, he talked more about this in the first debate. He explained how raising taxes on businesses and piling regulations onto businesses hurts businesses and jobs. You know, if businesses are struggling trying to pay taxes, then they can't afford to pay their employees. I mean, it's to me, I think it's simple, you know. So I did like what he had to say in the second debate about cutting taxes for business. You know, the the entities that actually provide jobs, that actually create jobs, right? Politicians don't create jobs. All they can do is take things away and pile on regulations that make it difficult for businesses to survive. And you know, and he brought up a good point of why corporations and businesses are leaving the country to go to other places where there's less regulations. And yes, while he can't, I don't think he ever says he can force companies and corporations to come back to the U.S. and employ them, but what he's saying is logically they will if they know they can survive here. And to do that, you have to free up the market.
Government doesn't create wealth, it actually eats it up and distributes it usually in very corrupt, wrong, and very inefficient ways. Now, a lot of our liberal friends out there are probably saying, you know, well, here's what's wrong with capitalism, you know, because corporate welfare, as they call it, and all this, you know, corporate tax cuts and all that, that's what creates the corruption. That's what drives the corruption. Folks, corruption is a product. Corruption needs to be bought. I don't care how much money you have, how wealthy you are. You can be Donald Trump, Bill Gates, or Vladimir Putin, although he's not that rich, contrary to what some Western sources will tell you. I don't care how much money you have. If corruption is not offered, you cannot buy it. Who offers the corruption? Government. Government, people that sit in the Senate, in Congress, in the White House, State Department, Department of Defense. That's where corruption comes from. When that product is offered, there will be takers. There will be takers. So please, let's stop about corporations creating the corruptions. Corporations take advantage of availability of the corruption. We really also laughed about the final question of the debate, which was, basically the moderator said, after this nasty debate where you called each other every name short of serial killer, which actually, in case of one of them, could have applied very, very well, but I digress. They said, say something nice about each other, and there was some extreme humor again, entertainment value. It was a fucking circus of the highest caliber.
Okay, so first of all, in our reaction, the first thing Hillary says, well, I like his children. And so we look at each other like,
what?
His children? Why I find this so funny is that she couldn't directly give a compliment, like say he's a good father, right? That would be a compliment to Trump. That would be a direct compliment. He's a good father. But no, she likes his children. She treats his children as if they're an extension of Trump. They're not their own separate individuals, which I find insulting. You know, why would you treat a child as an extension of their parent? I think that's... Of course, she's a huge collectivist, so...
No, children need to be raised and grow, and they need to grow as individuals. And portraying them as a, you know, inseparable extension of what their dad is or was or whatever, that is disrespectful. Not just to their dad, it's more disrespectful to the children who are grown adults now themselves. You know, and to me it's actually very telling of Hillary's two-faced personality on what she thinks as an individual, because that was actually individual expression. That was what she thinks. That's really deep down.
What she...
So she actually failed to play a good politics. She failed to try to lie to us. She actually, we should compliment, she told us the truth.
She actually, you know, gave, you know,
one of very few, one of very, very few occasions where Hillary said something that was not a lie. Historical moment.
And what I find ironic is that Trump is the one that's painted as the asshole, right? Like, he's the one that just says mean things and can't say anything nice, but he's the one who actually gave a legitimate compliment. And one thing that I found funny about Hillary's response is she somehow made it back to complimenting herself. Was like, oh, I like his kids, and you know, this relates to me because I've done this and this to help children throughout the world, and I love children. Like, all of a sudden she brought it back to complimenting herself. She didn't compliment Trump at all. She complimented his kids and then complimented herself.
I think that's true sign of narcissism.
Extreme. So, you know, when Trump was asked, I think he gave, you know, I think he does generally give honest answers, even if, you know, but his answer was, she's a fighter. And instead of, you know, taking maybe an opportunity to insult her a little bit, he says, you know, I don't agree with what she fights for, but she's a fighter. I think he could have easily said, you know, she's a fighter, I don't agree with how she fights, being two-faced, lying, and he could have gone into that.
Didn't do any of that.
No, he just said, I don't agree with what she fights for, but she's a fighter.
That's pretty much it for our second episode of the Uncensored Musings. And I think this is going to be, our next video will come from
Germany.
Deutschland. We're going to go to Germany in a couple days. We're going to film some stuff there. We were told that we're going to visit some interesting localities and places, including, like, I guess, the biggest refugee camp in Germany, as Ralph told us. And we're probably going to film some video material in Germany and some rants, and I'm doing some training, so I may throw in some training stuff
some action
as well, some action, some violence. So when we get back from Germany, look up for the next video installations, for the next episodes. Subscribe, follow, share to these YouTube channels and these social media pages that we both have on the Book of Faces. And with that, I think Sonny Puzikas here.
Anarkya Miller.
Peace.